It's an MMA Insiders Quick Fix with Jason Floyd and Sam Caplan.
Before we get out of here, two other things I want to mention here. Titan FC started to come out last week. Fighters that were supposed to be on that December card have gotten paid. My understanding is a portion of their show purse. And I think the first thought is, hey, it's great to see that some of the fighters are getting paid. Part of my question is, why did it take a month for these guys to get paid? I think that's ultimately one of the big questions there. And
shockingly, Jason, no one's asked Jeff Aronson that on the record.
Well, I thought I was going to have an interview with Jeff Aronson, but that never happened.
Well, I think he might know that you might be asking, you might be one of the few reporters with the balls to ask him that question, and I don't think he wants to be asked tough questions right now.
Look, I think the one thing, and I always say this, whether it's a fighter or someone on the promotion side, is you just be honest with them and you just let them know, look, I'm going to come out. I mean, there's been times in my career where I knew there was legal situations. So before we started doing the interview, I said, look, can you answer this question? If you can't answer the question, it's pointless for me to answer because it's not going to sound good in the interview. I can tell you flat out, it happened a couple times with Bjorn Rebney. I would say, hey, is there really? And my response is, I go, honestly, is there anything new you can really say that you haven't already said in 30 different interviews? He's like, no. I was like, well, there's really no. When the whole Eddie Alvarez situation was going on, it's like, well, what's the point of asking the question? Because he said the same exact response in 50 other interviews, so there's not really a reason to answer. I mean, look, I hope I get the opportunity to talk to Jeff Aronson. I think there's a couple of key questions to ask. I mean, obviously, I think probably the bloody elbow story that came out probably didn't help my case of getting that interview either, with some of the things that were raised in that one. And look, I went on my UFC Fight Pass account today. The Titan library is still not up there, so that was going to be one of my questions. It was announced back in June 11th of 2015 that the entire Titan library of 33 events would be on Fight Pass. As we're recording this show on January the 25th, that full library is not up there. So my question is, why isn't that full library up there?
And another interesting thing regarding Titan that I want to kind of divulge here, and we kind of maybe are a little remiss for not mentioning this earlier in the show. It's kind of being buried here towards the end. But a promoter got in touch with me last week, and this promoter is going to remain anonymous per their request. But this promoter was contacted by a fighter who is scheduled, to fight on Titan's March 4th show. And this fighter was trying to get on this promoter's show in February. And the promoter knows the fighter. They have a relationship. And the promoter had been told that the fighter was scheduled to fight March 4th for Titan. And the promoter came out and just said to the fighter, hey, why are you contacting me about a February fight? Why are you pushing me for this when you've got to fight, less than a month later? What's going on? And the fighter said, no, I'm scheduled to fight March 4th, but I have permission from the promotion to fight in February, and I would love to fight for you. And the promoter shot back and thought that was just very peculiar. Can't speak here as my mouth gets dry from talking so much on this show, but he thought that was kind of odd, and got in touch with me and kind of mentioned it to me and asked me if I had heard anything because he's very interested in putting this fighter on a show. The fact that as a promoter, as a matchmaker, you when you have someone booked, you typically do not allow them to fight outside of your event within 4 weeks. And really, ideally, you want to have them frozen and not fighting for anyone within 6 weeks, because what happens is there's a high threat of injury anytime you fight. And to put a guy on your poster and promote him and find someone else to match up with him and to put all that work in, only to have him be injured on someone else's show less than a month out, it's just asinine. You don't do that as a promoter and a matchmaker. And the fact that this fighter is scheduled for March 4th on Titan, but is now being permitted to promote his wares to other promoters and be able to take a fight within a month of that March 4th fight, it is called into question whether or not that March 4th Titan show is really going to happen. It doesn't add up, the fact that this fighter was given this permission.
You can catch the MMA Insiders with Jason Floyd and Sam Caplan
on TuneIn Radio, iTunes Radio, and RadioInfluence.com.